Good morning. And so, yes, that is a fan over my shoulder. Fans over my shoulder. I'm feeling silly. I'm still a little sleepy, but I'm ready for the day. Crazy dreams. But still, I awake and I realize they're just dreams. But they can lead to insight, that's for sure. And so the dreams that I had were really unusual. It was like a raw vegan taco place that was in a demolished building that you would never have assumed or guessed for tacos. Imagine that. There's this taco craze going on. All right, I'm going to do my practice and get the day started. I heard the ninja blending on the ninja, so I am following the trail to see what he's got going on in here. Check this out. He did something. What did he do?
Yummy smoothie for you. For you.
He wants me to be taken care of really, really well.
It's got spinach, bananas. It has that reishi yumminess in there. Hemp seeds. I guess it.
Ooh, yummy, yummy in my tummy. Well, that's really good.
That's good on. Little thumb action, double thumb action. Yeah.
So I am in the car. I am coming home from Dad's, and I pulled over for a little bit of a chat. I picked up a box of bananas back there, and that other box has avocados. I really wanted to... Gosh, there's so much I want to share. I've been trying to get a lot done, this and that, and so many insights dropping in. I mean, life is just phenomenal. And I find the more I'm sitting with inside stuff that's coming up, the more I'm recognizing the importance, the priorities, the beliefs, the things I've held on to the longest, or when my mind gets fixated on something. The other day I was actually sitting with a projection, an idea that it had me confronting my fear of having my needs met. And it was something from, I don't even know how far back in my childhood. But because of the fact that I've always had issues with control and working on that over the years, I know that I have taken on this belief that only I can take care of me. Being a single woman, always taking care of myself. Being the oldest daughter, always striving to take care of my sisters, my parents, friends, whoever. It's called being hyper vigilant, hyper responsible. It isn't my responsibility to take care of every single person out there. It is not my responsibility or my role to fix anyone. But for some reason, control is how we deal with the fears. The fear of abandonment, the fear of not feeling connected or important or significant. Because guess what? When we are taking care of someone, we're contributing to them. It's one of it's a basic human need. We want to feel connection. We want to feel love. So we give what we want back in return. We only can show up to others as we are able to show up for ourselves. And a lot of times we will overdo things for others and underdo things for ourselves, failing to show up for ourselves because of the fear that we'll be alone, they'll abandon us. And I'm throwing these all out as possibilities for everyone. But specifically for myself, Control issues, I know, stemmed from all these experiences as a child where I do admit there was a point when we were younger, my dad, when he moved away as a result of the pedophile that basically caused such an upstir in our family. Parakeet, squirrel. As a result of that, my dad left. And it wasn't that he left us that he was leaving us. But later, years later, I mean, we sat down and spoke about this. He told me that my grandmother told him that he needed to get out of there, that he would have a nervous breakdown. And I love my dad. He was unable to trust his own ability to be a parent, to be able to hold space for us children, to be there for us. So it was easier to believe old conditioning that I know my grandmother didn't intentionally impart upon him, but it disempowered him because those old patterns, those old statements, nobody will ever be good enough for you. Nobody will ever love you as much as your mother. I understand now how that can create a belief in someone to the point where, in my father's case, he believed it. And what happens if you're told nobody, blah, 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 but your mother? It is assuming that you yourself can't even trust your own choices because your mother's implying that she's the only one who could be there and take care of you. So there was this fear of there is a fear of abandonment with me that I have had to confront over the years, because I recognize that my dad didn't intentionally abandon us, but I sat with him one day and expressed to him it felt like he abandoned us because we were left behind, not knowing how to handle things, not knowing who to turn to, who was there for us. Even though our mother, she did the best she could. But basically, I know my mom was beating herself up as a result of not being able to prevent what had happened to her in her mind, being taken advantage of, molested, abused, sexually assaulted at a young age. She carried this, and we heard it so often, I never want what happened to me to happen to you girls. And as a result, she was so fearful of it. I know she didn't want to take on that responsibility and realize that, wow, the more I tried to protect, the less I was able to do it. See, we don't realize this, but it's such a true statement that ultimately that which you resist, that which you try to push away, you give so much energy to, it's an invitation for it to come to you. It truly is an invitation because you have fixated on it. Most of the time, it's unconscious. Most of the time, it is like deep below the surface, and we can't necessarily see it or feel it, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you recognize maybe a subtle thought of the fear of something happening. And I was listening to Matt Kahn the other day about the most disempowering thing we can do is, I hope this doesn't happen, because what happens is you've basically invited whatever that hope you doesn't happen into your life, into your experiences. You have invited in something you fear because you're fixated on what you don't want versus what you do want. It's crazy, this life. And there's so many things that if we just become present, recognize what is most important, which is love, to not get caught up in the mundane, but recognize our patterns and our belief systems and how strongly we hold on to them. Because those are so limiting to our livelihood, so limiting to our experiences. The more we fixate on our own beliefs, we're rejecting the new stuff to come in. If things have to look a certain way, we're never going to see a new way. We're never going to see this unfamiliar, because the mind, it says, oh, I don't know, I don't want this to happen based on a past experience. And it's fearful, so it tries to control things, as I was saying. This need to control the externals around us, the environment, really stems from the fear that you won't get something, or someone will reject you. So as I bring it back, I had to sit with my fear that my needs wouldn't be met, that anybody else doing something for me would not meet my needs, that I'm the only one who could meet my needs. And I know I've talked about this before. If you're in any form of a relationship and you want your partner to show up to you a certain way, you still have to give them the opportunity and the permission, and you have to allow them to show up too. Let them show up as they are. Tweak your communication and your union as you come together. But if you reject your partner when they show up to you as they are, you're not going to give them permission to do it again in the future, because you're trying to control them. You're trying to control what they do, how they do it, and how they show up to you. And the reason I bring this up is because I told Tom, I said the other day, I really sat with something pretty profound. I was recognizing that I haven't allowed you to, and I have, but I mean, when I say allowed, I had a moment where I really, really was deep in my shit. And he smiled, and I said, your smoothies have been delicious. And he always makes good smoothies. There's never been a time he hasn't. Just not always hungry when he hands me something and says, do you want this? Do you want something? And maybe I do want something done the way I like it. There's nothing wrong with that, people. I'm not saying you can't like your own stuff the way you prepare it, the way you love it, whatever it is in your life. But you still have to give other people permission to show up to you. You still have to be willing to allow them to make attempts to meet your needs, because that's an act of love. And again, when we talk about energetic exchange, as I talked about giving and taking, when you're unable to receive, what you're doing is creating more of a distance between you and the other person. Your hearts don't connect. Energy becomes stagnant. If a person is trying to give you something, it doesn't matter what it is. You have to show up to them as well. If it is something that is, like I said the other day, icky, doesn't feel right, like I've had people try to hug me and it felt icky because they were trying to cop a feel, versus I'm a very huggable person and I will always show up to a hug and I will give a hug. That's an example of giving and taking. You have to be open and willing to show up to others, even sometimes when it's uncomfortable. There's a difference between uncomfortable and ick. But you have to try and make the attempts to allow others. When they are given permission and you receive them fully with open heart, I'm here to tell you, you will grow immensely and so will they. There's a wonderful, let's say, energetic portal that opens when we continue to allow someone to show up to us, delight us, and surprise us in all of their fervor, however they are. When they show up to you and you let them, doesn't matter if it's perfect or not, you give them the opportunity to feel safe and secure in your presence and in their being present. There's a huge gift in that. And I know partnerships are the most difficult because we can get caught up in well, if I let this person do something, they're going to mess it up. If we can just step out of that mindset and that belief system, we can open the door for them to surprise us instead of holding on to this, they're going to mess it up. They're going to mess it up. When you're looking for them to mess it up, they're going to. Because you have manifested it. Because you have held them in a space that is unkind for yourself and them, because you're creating more trauma. You're caught up in the polarities of good versus bad instead of seeing, you know what, let me give them an opportunity. If you can drop the expectation of the worst case scenario, it's going to be much healthier for you. It just takes time and patience because it doesn't happen overnight, but you have to condition your brain, your mind, your beliefs to not be so attached. You have to look at that person and give them permission to be. And so I know there are going to be people who are going to say, but, the but is our own kicking. It's our own getting stuck. I'm one to tell you that I do exactly the same thing and I'm constantly working on it. I don't want to look for the worst case scenario. I don't want to look for someone to basically prove my mind right that they're going to mess up. I want to look at them as the godly gift that they are to me. This person showed up in my life for a reason. Why not look at them as, ooh, what is the beauty that they have shown up in my life to provide? What is the glistening blessing lesson that's available in this union, this relationship? I'm learning every day that my union gets stronger and deeper the more willing I am to release and allow. And the other person will be more willing to work with you instead of against you, or to show up to you as you expect the worst. You have to give people the opportunity to grow with you, not on your terms and not the way you want it to look. So I love you all very much. I'm going to go home now and get something to eat because I'm hungry. And I think maybe I'll have one more video, but I think this is definitely the big one. And yeah, be love. Show up and allow it to come in.